Hello adventurers, this is Miss Megan with Warrensburg Adventure Club, and I'm back today for another crochet lesson. So last time we learned how to create things in the round, and we made those cute little coasters. Now today I'm going to teach you how to make granny squares. So you start these off in the round, so if you haven't watched the video on how to work in the round, I would do that first so that we can make these. So granny squares are really versatile. You can make them small and connect them together to make blankets, or you can continue working on the same granny square and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. So as well as showing you how to make these granny squares, I'm going to show you how to change your colors in the granny square, and also how to connect your granny squares. So if you want to create lots and lots of these little dudes and put them together in a blanket, you can. So of course you will need your crochet hook, a pair of scissors, yarn. I have two colors here because I'm going to show you how to change colors, but if you're not comfortable with that yet, that is totally fine. And I also, again, highly recommend a yarn needle. This is a metal one. There are plastic ones available. It just makes it a lot easier to tuck in our ends and create neat finished pieces. So I'm going to go to that other view now and show you how to make granny squares. We'll be making our granny squares using double stitches. So we'll start with our slip knot and our 4 chain stitches. Just like we did with the rounds, you'll want to crochet your stitches into the chain that is closest to your slip knot. Instead of making 11 stitches, we're going to do a full 12 stitches into this hole. Once you've done that, instead of slip stitching into the top of your chain, you'll actually slip stitch into the first stitch of your round. After you've done that, chain 3 and crochet 2 double stitches into the same hole your chain is coming out of. Remember that your chain 3 at the beginning of this row counts as a stitch, so you've just made 3 stitches into the same spot. Next, chain 1, then crochet 3 more double stitches into that same hole. What we're doing here is creating our first corner. To create our next corner, count 3 stitches from your first corner and work the next corner into this stitch. Again, we'll make 3 double crochet stitches into this hole, chain 1, and then make 3 more double crochet stitches into the same hole. Do the same for your next 2 corners. Once you've made all 4 corners of your square, slip stitch into the top of your chain and then chain 3. To begin this next row, crochet 2 more double crochets into the space below your chain. Whenever we're not working on a corner piece, we will always crochet 3 double crochets into these spaces. For the corners, you will be crocheting into the space created underneath the chain that happens between your groups of 3 double crochets. Just like we did before, make 3 double crochets into this space, chain 1, and make 3 more double crochets into the same space. Now that you know how to make the corners as well as the rows between the corners, you've got all you need to create granny squares. You can keep expanding your square larger and larger, or you can tie your square off here and make other squares to connect to it. Before I show you how to connect these squares, let me show you how you can change colors. It is very similar to how we changed colors in the coaster video. At the end of this row, instead of slip stitching the top of the chain with this color, I'm going to pull my other color of yarn through like this. After I've done this, I would just chain up the next row and crochet onto my square like normal. Here's an example of color changing with the granny square. It makes for a pretty interesting effect, and all you're doing is switching colors. Cool, right? Now that I've shown you that, I'm going to quickly go over finishing off a square and tucking in your ends. Again, you've already done this with the round, so it should be pretty much a review for you. Cut off your yarn with a decent tail and pull your yarn all the way through. Using your yarn needle, going from back to front, go under the first real stitch in the row. Once you've pulled that through, go through the last stitch in your row, creating that false stitch. Remember that when we tuck our yarn in, we go more than one way to prevent it from pulling itself out. Now I'm going to show you one method for connecting your squares together. These squares have what we call a right side and a wrong side. The right side is much more textured and clean looking than the wrong side. Here, I have both right sides facing up. Next, you'll want to put your squares with the right sides facing each other. That way our binding stitches are on the wrong sides of the squares. I'm going to use this yellow to connect these two so you can see what I'm doing, but you can use the same color as the outsides of your squares if you want to perfectly blend them together. Or you could use black for a kind of outline effect. Here's a picture of a car seat cover I made as an example. Make a slip knot with whatever color you choose and put it on your hook like you would to start a piece. Lining up your squares, we'll first be going into the corner chains right here. Put your hook through both of these stitches. It'll be a little tight. Then yarn over and pull through the stitches on both squares. Then yarn over again and pull this through both the loops on your hook. You're essentially making a row of single crochet stitches to connect these two squares together. Do this all the way down your squares, all the way to the other chain stitch on the other corner. Chain 1 at the end of this connecting row, cut off your yarn, and pull all the way through. That's it! Now you know how to connect your granny squares. Alright adventurers, I hope you enjoyed this activity. I hope you enjoyed making these granny squares. They are actually one of my personal favorites. They are so versatile, and there's something really soothing about making hundreds of these at a time and then sewing them all together to make one big magnificent piece. So until next time, this has been Miss Megan with Warrensburg Adventure Club. Have a great day and have fun crocheting.